I found out from my kids, they kept trying to get me up really early in the morning, texting and calling, and I thought it was fake news. But the images that I got, and first of all, I was devastated because, let me just put it succinctly here. Before Ozzy, there was no such thing as Ozzy.
Ozzy Osbourne's autopsy report reveals shocking new details. The world is still reeling from the death of Ozzy Osbourne, the legendary frontman of Black Sabbath and a towering figure in rock and roll.
Let me just put it succinctly here. Before Ozzy, there was no such thing as Ozzy. There never was an Ozzy before. There's not going to be another Ozzy. Not taking any direction from anybody, despite disco and schmixel, and thrash and whatever else was going on. He was always Ozzy. And the love he had for the fans, he expressed it on stage. Yes, the Prince of Darkness, but who, as the Prince of Darkness would say, I love you, and throw kisses to the fans. I mean, it was really striking.
As fans continue to pay tribute and reflect on his massive legacy, new reports surrounding his death have emerged, and they're sparking a wave of speculation, emotion, and unanswered questions. According to insider leaks and unconfirmed sources, the alleged contents of Ozzy Osbourne's autopsy report are beginning to paint a more detailed, if controversial, picture of his final days. While the Osbourne family has yet to confirm or deny the specifics, these new developments are already shifting how the world sees the death of one of its most iconic rockers. Ozzy Osbourne was no stranger to health issues.
We came to America and we thought like drugs and all that was just a part of the gig, you just get stoned and you just get up and that make your gig and all that. And what happened with Black Sabbath, we all ended up junkies and alcoholics and everything. Like the drummer ended up in a rehabilitation centre. I did for a while, and in the end, disaster happens. It's inevitable to happen, disaster, because it's like drugs. They were okay at the time, but we outgrew them, We just, we took LSD, we took cocaine, we took vast amounts of marijuana. It was fun at the time, but then we all just sort of it ain't a very good idea anymore.
Over the past 2 decades, his fans witnessed his body gradually deteriorate under the weight of countless medical conditions. From his publicly documented battle with Parkinson's disease to a series of severe spinal surgeries, blood clots, infections, and a weakened immune system, Ozzy's physical strength had been pushed to the brink. Yet he never gave up. He kept performing, kept creating, and kept appearing in public, even when the pain was clearly visible. But despite the long list of known ailments, the release of his alleged autopsy findings has introduced shocking new elements that few, if any, were prepared for.
He was diagnosed, we didn't know, in 2003 with this Parkinson's, which was probably created the inability to, people were making fun of his speaking voice, And he never really addressed that. He was hard to understand. People were doing impressions, which weren't always really nice,
According to these unofficial accounts, none of which have been verified by official medical institutions, Ozzy's body showed advanced progression of multiple degenerative diseases. His Parkinson's had allegedly progressed beyond stage 3, verging on stage 4 in the final months of his life. This meant Ozzy was not only experiencing tremors and motor dysfunction, but also severe cognitive impairment, hallucinations, and drastic changes in mood. These conditions, according to doctors familiar with similar cases, would have made basic tasks incredibly difficult and emotional processing nearly impossible. However, what's turning heads even more are the alleged signs of respiratory damage. The autopsy reportedly found significant pulmonary scarring consistent with emphysema, an ailment that had never been officially confirmed but had long been rumored due to Ozzy's lifelong smoking and exposure to various environmental hazards, including years on tour inhaling smoke machine pyrotechnics and dust-filled venues. Moreover, the report allegedly documents chronic inflammation in several internal organs, including the liver and kidneys. While Ozzy's past struggles with substance abuse are well known and in later years openly discussed by the rock star himself, the extent of the damage is reportedly more severe than the public had imagined. The liver showed signs of cirrhosis, while the kidneys bore evidence of long-term over-medication and stress from repeated surgical recovery cycles. One of the most surprising elements of the leak, however, concerns the brain. The autopsy purportedly found microbleeds, tiny hemorrhages on the frontal lobe, which could be attributed to past head trauma. Though Ozzy never publicly disclosed any recent incidents involving head injuries, his 2003 ATV accident and various stage falls may have played a role. Neurologists suggest that such damage could exacerbate symptoms of Parkinson's and accelerate cognitive decline, making Ozzy's final performances and appearances all the more extraordinary. Perhaps most heartbreakingly, insiders claim the autopsy notes severe muscular atrophy throughout Ozzy's body. Despite his larger-than-life persona, his physique had reportedly wasted away in his last week. Muscles essential for posture, walking, and even swallowing had atrophied significantly, reinforcing how excruciating his final days may have been. But beyond the physical findings, it's the emotional fallout from these reports that's hitting fans the hardest. While no one expected Ozzy's passing to be without health complications, the sheer weight of these findings paints a picture of a man who bore immense suffering privately while maintaining a public image of resilience. Ozzy's wife, Sharon Osbourne, has remained relatively quiet about the specifics of his final days. In a brief statement released days after his passing, she wrote, "Ozzy was more than his body. He was strength wrapped in vulnerability, a lion who never stopped roaring, even when the world thought he couldn't." Kelly Osbourne, Ozzy's daughter, has also responded emotionally to the swirl of autopsy rumors. In a recent Instagram post, she wrote, "Please stop dissecting my father's death like a science project. He was a human being who suffered in silence for longer than anyone knew. Let him rest." Still, curiosity continues to rise, especially as the media scrambles to confirm or debunk the leak. Some believe the report was deliberately leaked by someone within the hospital or coroner's office. Others argue the details are false, part of a clickbait cycle feeding off public grief. Medical experts have weighed in, warning the public to take any such leaked reports with caution. Elaine Harrow, a neurologist who specializes in degenerative diseases, told a UK outlet, "Unless officially confirmed, all these findings are speculative."
They discovered I had Parkinson's when I had the fall. Well, I've known about the Parkinson's since 2003. I've had it all my life, and the Parkinson's I have, it's not like the Michael J. Fox one. What is it called, sir?
It's called Parkin2. It's a gene that Ozzy was born with. And of course, Ozzy couldn't get anything normal. It's very rare.
But if true, they do reflect what many patients with Parkinson's face in the advanced stages. The British government has yet to release an official death certificate or post-mortem report, which is common in high-profile deaths to allow for family privacy. But that hasn't stopped tabloids, YouTubers, and gossip sites from generating theories, some claiming Ozzy's death was preventable, others suggesting there may be more to the story. One particularly disturbing theory suggests that prolonged exposure to a combination of medications, both prescribed and over-the-counter, may have created a toxic buildup in Ozzy's system. According to unnamed medical insiders, his toxicology screening showed a complex mix of sedatives, painkillers, and muscle relaxants, some of which may have conflicted with his Parkinson's medication. Again, these claims are not verified, but they have fueled debate over whether his medical team could have prevented a fatal interaction. What's abundantly clear, regardless of which details are true, is that Ozzy Osbourne suffered greatly in his final years, and yet he rarely complained. His last public appearances, including his farewell performance in Birmingham just weeks before his death, showed a man determined to honor his fans, even when it meant enduring pain. The reaction from the music world has been one of awe and heartbreak. Artists across generations have paid tribute, from heavy metal pioneers to young pop stars who grew up listening to his work. Gene Simmons, who had a well-documented friendship with Ozzy, said he was the embodiment of rock and roll's soul, flawed, brilliant, and forever real. Meanwhile, Piers, who had often interviewed Ozzy and the Osbourne family, wrote, "Ozzy didn't just change music, he changed how we define survival. So what do we really make of these shocking autopsy claims? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between medical fact and emotional mythology. Ozzy's body may have borne the marks of a life lived to the fullest, and the cost that came with it. But his legacy? That remains untouchable. The autopsy report, if officially released, will answer lingering questions, but for most fans, the details matter less than the reality that Ozzy Osbourne gave everything he had until the very end. The stage, the fans, the love. It was all part of what kept him going, even when his body begged him to stop. In the coming months we may learn more. Medical records may be declassified, family members may choose to speak out, but the core of Ozzy's story is already written. Not on a medical chart, but in the hearts of millions who saw in him not just a performer, but a fighter. Let this serve not as a forensic summary, but as a tribute. Ozzy Osbourne's life was messy, loud, brilliant and brave, and while the alleged autopsy report may offer scientific closure, it will never capture the spirit that kept roaring even in silence. Rest in peace, Ozzy. The world was never ready for you and it will never forget you.